Hey guys, it's Dan back with another Doomtown Reloaded video for you. As promised last time, this week I am going to look at a deck build. It's going to be a Morgan deck, and it's going to feature one of the new dudes from the Frontier Justice Saddlebag. Now, the basic concept of the deck is not mine. I was ruthlessly beaten by it. The pilots being divided by zero, he of Doomtown design fame. So I've taken the basic idea and I've tweaked it to a deck that I'm more comfortable playing with cards that I prefer. And feel free, if you like the deck, to mix and match and put stuff in and make it work. There's lots of different stuff you can do with it. The basic core of it, though, revolves around 3 cards. And the first one of those is Mario Crane. Now, Mario is awesome for a variety of reasons. He's harrowed, so he's really hard to kill. He's got an ability that makes him really hard to kill, and he kind of hangs around for a while. Getting the most use out of him tends to be quite problematic. You've probably seen the Super Mario deck. It just runs loads of actions, so all it can do is flush. The idea being that you need to pull 5 of the kind or better against it to turn off his ability or make him cheat. I'm not a big fan of Super Mario. I think it's too easy to 5 of the kind against him with a dedicated shooter deck. Anybody running a 316 or even 314 and some jokers, very easily 5 of the kind against him. He dies very quickly. So, yeah, that kind of evolved into Mario and Force Field, which we'll also be using for this deck. The idea now being that if you do come across a difference of 3, 4, or 5 hand ranks, you can use the Force Field to get Mario to the stage where he can't die. And that proves to be very, very good. It's very, very easy to build. It's a couple of cards. All you need is the money to fuel the economy for basically using the Force Field as often as possible. Now, the flaw is he runs in, does his thing, forces 1 casualty on either side. He can't die because he's Mario, and, well, you do, so you lose 1 guy. But then he's kind of stuck. He does that once and either goes home or stays where he is. It works, but it's not very efficient. Now we have a new guy who helps us out. And the best thing is, his name is awesome. So we've got Mario, and now we've got Louis G. So Louis Pasteur, whose ability is actually really good. Let's put him on screen. We'll have a look at him. He's a new Morgan dude in Frontier Justice. He's Queen, so he's got decent high value. He is expensive to start. He does cost you 8 Ghost Rock and a 2 Ghost Rock upkeep. Now, the original build for this deck, I was starting Louis and Mario, and that was about it. And while it does get you 2 of the crucial pieces of your 3 cards on the table, against a slide deck or anybody with enough control points, it just falls over because you just don't have the influence to stay in the game. So we are going to start Louis on this one. So he does cost 8, which doesn't give us many options to go with him, but he's a stud, which is quite nice. And he's mad scientist too, so he can easily build the Force Field. And the really cool thing about him is the reason he makes Mario Force Field so much better is take your lumps, step 5 of a shootout. So we go in, we have a fight, I've got Mario, and okay, if I cheat, I can use the Force Field, I can go home booted because I'm harrowed. So that avoids cheating. Coach Whip's a pain, but you live with it. Otherwise, you use the Force Field, force a draw, we both take 1 casualty. Now, in the take your lump step, there is no end of shootout if 1 posse is empty, so you both still get to choose to go home. So the idea is this: you give Mario a Force Field, you send him into a fight, you pay for the Force Field, you both take 1 casualty. Ideally, you're going in a 1-on-1 fight, so it ends there. So they'll discard their guy. Mario decides, hey, you know what? I'm going to go home now. And he goes home. He goes home booted, which is where Louis lives. Louis Pasteur stays in your home. And then we use his ability. We pay 1 Ghost Rock. We pull, trying to hit 10. Well, we need to pull an 8 because of his mad scientist ability. And if we get that, we stand Mario back up, who can then move into the town square and go and pick on another guy. And the same thing again. We go in, we force 1 casualty, we choose to go home. Louis stands him back up again. And we go back. And you do this over and over and over again. And in theory, with enough money, you can pick off an entire opposing posse all over town, regardless of where they are. They're out of town, it's a bit problematic, but they're out of town, so what do you care? And that's pretty much it. So I'll get the cards together and we'll go through the economy, how to make it work, how much money you can get in, and different bits and pieces, and try and get it all working together. But the basic concept is it's Mario with a Force Field, standing up every turn as often as he wants, because Louis is a repeatability. So every time Mario goes home, you can stand him up. So I'll be back in a second and we'll have a look at the cards. Okay then guys, here we go. We're going to start with the home card, which we're going to use the Morgan Gadgetorium, simply because we're going to be running a fair few gadgets, including the force field, and it just works out slightly better for us, as the gadgets we're going to run are quite cheap, and effectively it'll pay for them, so we're not losing Ghost Rock, bearing in mind we need a lot of economy for this deck to do what it needs to do. So that's our Gadgetorium. We'll get the bits and pieces together for the combo. So force field, Mario Crane. We're going to run Mario main deck, simply because, as I mentioned in the intro, it's difficult to start the pair of them together because it's only 3 influence. The issue there being that you can very easily lose quite quickly. Your opponent drops out 2 control point deeds. We don't have a very heavy shooter deck. The idea being that we can keep Mario around, but we're not going to be very aggressive. So he's gone main deck. It also gives us a couple of values to work with, so 8s and 9s. So we're going to use that as a core of our deck and build from there. Starting dudes, since Frontier Justice isn't out until Wednesday, this Queen of Spades will be Louis Pasteur, since he is a Queen of Spades. So you go over there. Alongside him, because we're not starting Mario, we need to have some influence, enough moving bodies to do stuff. We're going to start Kyle Wagner. The cool thing about Kyle is he's also a mad scientist. That gives us 2 mad scientists to invent things. And with the Morgan ability on the Gadgetorium, it effectively gives us 3 invents a turn. So if we do get a handful of gadgets, we can get them out very, very quickly. And then some nice cheap influence in the shape of Irving Patterson, because it's quite possibly the single best starting influence card for Morgan, regardless of what deck you're building. He goes in pretty much every Morgan deck. Now, economy-wise, we need to be able to fuel the deck. We're going to start with 4 Coach Comes to Town. Now, even though we're not shooting, Mario does survive shootouts very, very easily. So Coach Comes to Town isn't necessarily a bad proposition for us. And also, Irving or Kyle can run it if it's the end of the turn. If your opponent's booted out, you're not suspecting anything to come in the way and to jump in the way and defend. It's an easy 4 Ghost Rocks. Chuck it out at the end of the turn. If your opponent's passed a couple of times, you know nothing's going to happen. Drop it out, get some money. Reserves is another one of our cash options. We're going to go for that one simply because it's just game 1 Ghost Rock for a card. So it gets a card out of your hand to redraw at the end of turn, try and dig through your deck to get the combo pieces, and also makes us some money. And then on the money gaining side as well, 1 good turn. And let's spread it out a little bit. So 1 good turn gets us 3 cash when your opponent cheats. Cheating a low ball with a heavy shooter deck is kind of unavoidable. So that should get us a lot of cash at the start of turn. You'll notice there is a lack of cheating punishment. We could try and fit some in, but given how much cash this deck needs to really get going to be able to pay for the force field over and over and over again, and pay for Louis' ability, which costs us 1 point every time, had to try and strip out some room to keep the cash flowing. So we've actually foregone the punishment cards. But hopefully we should do all right. I mean, we're not going to cheat too often, hopefully, so that's not going to be an issue for us. We're not going to have to take a cheating cast in the face. And if your opponent does start to throw out cheating full house, cheating 4 of a kind, or even cheating 5 of a kind to try and nail Mario, we've got the force field and a load of cash to bring us up to the same level, so it's not a major issue. After this, we'll have a look at the goods we're going to run for the deck. There's a couple of different pieces we've added in here. So we're already in 8s and 9s. We've got some 8s in the action suite. We've got some jacks as well. So I thought jacks would go for our 3rd value, which also gets us really cool stuff like Buffalo Rifle. So Buffalo Rifle on Mario means he can get involved in the shootout when he's booted from an adjacent location. Again, so trying to get him in there, trying to use the force field, and trying to send people home, or trying to send himself home, and discarding a guy off the table is what the deck's all about. So that gets us more options and into more shootouts. On that vein, since we were in 9s, Mechanical Horse, same deal. Doesn't boot to get into a shootout, so we can use Mario more than once, and we get to move him around town if he is booted by paying 2 cash. So, good call there. So you notice the 2 gadgets we've got here with difficulty 5, which means we can use the Gadgetorium very easily by increasing the difficulty, and we haven't really got anything to worry about. All the cards here so far will easily pull a difficulty 8 gadget if need be. Now, we do have one other gadget, which is the Auto Cattle Feeder. I like it simply because it costs 0, which means we can make a money by inventing it with the Gadgetorium, and we can then use it to make another money. So we're playing 1 card, we get 2 cash. it does need to go on a ranch as opposed to just a deed. And the issue here is obviously we've got to find ranchers to play. So we're going to put a couple of those in later when we get to the deeds. And so we've got a fair few gadgets, a couple of bits and pieces, all on value at the moment. Obviously the kings are higher than the other bits and pieces, but they're high, so they're making the gadget pools. It's not really an issue. Maybe, possibly, you might want to use Fancy New Hat instead of these because we are starting such a low amount of influence. But other than that, I think it's a fairly solid amount of cash there. So all we need now is to basically just buff up the deck so Mario can run around and do his thing. So we'll get him some friends to run around with. We'll go with Remy Lepon. Remy being an awesome little chap for his cost. You can pay Ghost Swap to make him a higher stud, effectively making him a 5-stud guy. So if the worst comes to the worst, you either haven't seen a Mario or he's taken care of, you've still got a fairly beefy guy who we can give the horse to, and we can give the Buffalo Rifle to and have him get involved in fights and keep paying money to make him effective. I'll go for a Max Bane, simply because he's nice, cheap 4 influence guy. 6 to get on the table, 4 influence, keeps us in the game, stops us losing. Also has a really cool ability where if we do have a couple of ranchers out, he does get a control point, and he gives all of our dudes at ranchers +1 influence and +3 value. And that +3 value is really, really nice, especially for Irving and Kyle if they are still around at the stage where Max turns up, because it keeps them out of shotgun territory or harder to shotgun in the case of Irving, who's still only going to go to 4. But it's worth having. It's only 1 card. Why not include him? So shoring up the values. 3 Stephen Wiles on 8. Only 3 simply because I had to make room. I would normally run 4. Problem is though, if you start running multiple Stevens, this will hurt in the morning, starts to become really, really bad. If you hit a couple in low ball and you get this will hurt in the morning, you're kind of obliged to pay to keep him in play, or at least only have him discarded, not aced, because otherwise you can't play him. So we've only got 3 there. I don't think it's a major issue. 3 is more than enough. And then a few other bits and pieces on top of that. We've got a Clint Ramsey, just because he's on value and he's a very good guy. 2 stud for only 1 upkeep. Hard to argue with that. Androcles Brocklehurst, just for making money. He's just an income card for us, as is Angela Payne. I'm not massively sold on Angela. She costs 7 to get into play, so you've got to use her 4 times to even get some return from her. But she is a stud, and she's got an influence, so she can be useful by taking control points off the board and wandering around and getting in the way. She's got no upkeep either, so you haven't got to worry about her once she is in play. But again, there's only 1 of her in there, just in case you do need that little extra bit of a cash bump late game. Deeds on the table next. Again, with the cash generation, Telegraph Office, we're running Stephen Wiles. No reason not to run 1 Telegraph Office. You pay 1 cash to put Stephen into play, use the Telegraph Office to make 3, and you've made a net gain of 2 cash from having a dude on the table. Awesome news. General Store lowers the cost of the gadgets for us, so we can actually put the gadgets for free, making 1 money off the Gadgetorium. Really, really good. So again, really efficient cash generation for us there. And then we've got the set of out-of-town deeds. So we've got 2 Jackson Strikes, 2 Pat's Perch, helpfully on value for us, which is really good. 0 control points. If your opponent does want to go and sit on them, all they're doing is stopping you get some cash. And there's so much cash in this deck, you don't really care. Blake Ranch as well, 2 of those, which gives us the ranch we need for the cattle feeders. So it's a bit of a tricky one, this. Blake Ranch is so efficient at what it does, it will generally coax somebody to go and sit on it from over the other side of the table to stop you getting that money, and it is the only ranch we've got. I would maybe possibly try and fit in a Circle M or a Cattle Market just so you've got some options. The reason I like the Blake Ranch so much is because it's out of town. It's somewhere nice and safe for us to stick our cattle feeders, and so it is generally fairly solid cash gain because we've got 2 control points here on the Telegraph Office and a few other deeds. General Store, people are going to want to sit on that utility rather than just a straight up cash, so you should be alright. Also got a Bunkhouse, simply because it's on value when we need more deeds. It's 2 cash for 1 control point, and it helps out dudes like Kyle, and even Mario can sit on it and gain an influence if he needs to, just to keep us in the game a bit longer to get him up and running. Morgan Research Institute, 3 cash turn, gives us more mad science, so we can probably even safely bump the cattle feeder by 2 difficulty as well. So we have to worry about failure, because we have, obviously with a couple of low value cards, that is possibly a risk that it might not go off. Then we have 3 deeds whose sole purpose in life is to fish through our deck and go digging for the combo. So we've got the Killer Bunnies Casino, lets us discard an extra card at the end of the turn, so we can get an extra card in our hand, dig through the deck faster, find our combo pieces, and then Gomorrah Parish and Pony Express, which serve the purpose of getting cards out of our hand that we don't need. So Pony Express to get rid of excess Marios if you've already got in play, and the Gomorrah Parish lets us ace off cards that we're not going to see. So you might want to ace off a coach comes to town if you're playing against an aggressive Sloan deck, for example, that you know is going to defend it every time and possibly just beat your ass and take your money. They become dead cards, so Gomorrah Parish there at least lets us get some use out of it. And that's pretty much the deck. All it does is it makes money, pays for the combo, and hopefully, if you get all the pieces together fast enough, is a nightmare for your opponent, because getting involved in a fight with Mario at that point just becomes a losing proposition any way you look at it. You physically cannot get involved in a fight with him, because he's going to go, okay, I don't care what my shootout hand is. He'll even high card against you. With so much cash, you could even high card, pay 9-10, raise your rank up, use his ability, come home, use Louis, do it all again. So give it a go. I'm going to put this up on the Gomorrah Gazette forums as well, since we have a nice new forum. Gives us a chance to discuss the deck, so you can have any questions about what I've put in, why I didn't include something else, maybe discuss having more ranchers for the cattle feeder. Your call. Let me know what you think. Obviously, give the deck a go. It's lots of fun, and it's just simply, like I said before, Mario Force Field, but a little bit of extra oomph with Louis Pasteur, just to really make him a nightmare. So build a deck, give it a go, and let me know what you think. Until next time, which should hopefully be a review of Frontier Justice. I'll try and have that up this Friday, so only a couple of days until I get my hands on a copy, and we'll go from there.